All right, business news now. First up, the financial world, Will Edwards, has had a bit of a shock. It woke up with the news that Moody's has downgraded 15 banks.
Yeah, 15 of the world's biggest institutions. Let's take a look at some of the names. They include the biggest names in the US, in France, and in the UK, across Europe, in fact. The majority of them were dropped by 2 notches by Moody's ratings agency, except for Credit Suisse, which was surprisingly dropped by 3 notches, which really singles them out, unfortunately for them. Of course, the ratings agencies, they do still make quite a big difference to exactly how much it costs for banks to borrow on the market. So this will push up the cost of borrowing for major banks, which will be obviously of concern to them in this current financial climate.
And what's the impact on the markets?
Well, it has not exactly helped things along. Things were going pretty badly already on the US markets yesterday. Of course, the announcement was made after the close of the markets, but it was rumoured, so this did add into the negative picture, which we just saw there. Minus 2% on some of the biggest markets, the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, and pretty much the same story on the Dow Jones. Let's take a look at how things are going in Asia at the moment as well, and it's not great there either, I'm afraid. This is off the back of news, of course. Yesterday, Chinese PMI figures, the manufacturing index figures, they showed a slowdown, and also similar figures for Germany came out, showing the biggest slowdown since 2009. So a global slowdown could be on the way. Obviously, the markets aren't liking that one bit.
So markets are down across the board, but there should be a silver lining to this, right? The price of oil is going down.
Yeah, let's look on the bright side, eh? At least with a global slowdown, you get a reduction in demand for oil, and with that, you get a reduction in the price of oil. You can see here the price of Brent crude is now at its lowest since December 2010, below the $90 per barrel mark for the first time since then. So when you think about, we're around $90 now. It was $128 at one point earlier in March. So that's quite a big difference. That will eventually come through to consumers at the pumps, but these things do take a while to filter through. But of course, it's a big election issue in the US, so I suppose Barack Obama will be one of the people who's pleased to see that graph there.
All right, next up, the IMF's Christine Lagarde has been giving her opinion on the Eurozone crisis, and she's added to the pressure on Germany for bolder action.
A sharp warning from the IMF. Christine Lagarde said the euro was under acute stress and called on governments to take bigger steps quickly.
As we see it at the moment, the viability of the European monetary system is questioned.
The head of the IMF called for a more forceful move towards complete European monetary union, which would include issuing joint bonds. She also said the European stability funds should be used to bail out banks directly in order to break the vicious cycle of government debts.
Our preference is that this recapitalisation or financing be done without the intermediary of the sovereign and direct from either EFSF or ESM into the banks that need recapitalisation.
Lagarde's demands directly challenge the current policy advocated by Germany. Angela Merkel has become increasingly isolated in her insistence on austerity and resistance to mutualising debt. As late as Wednesday, the German Chancellor insisted there were no concrete plans towards closer monetary union, but showed a softening of her stance.
There is the possibility of buying government bonds on the secondary market in the European financial stability systems, always with conditions attached, of course. But this is purely a hypothetical argument.
Merkel is set to meet leaders of France, Spain and Italy today, ahead of a crucial EU summit next week. Spain is expected to officially ask for a loan of up to 100 billion euros to bail out banks in the coming days.
And of course, Christine Lagarde was talking at the ongoing meeting of EU finance ministers in Luxembourg. Will, what's coming out of that meeting so far?
Well, Spain has announced that auditors, independent auditors, have been looking at its banking system, which is, of course, in deep trouble at the moment. And they've come up with a figure for how much those banks need. They say 62 billion euros is the magic number, up to that amount at least. So, of course, there's already been announced a 100 billion euros EU bailout for Spain's banking system. And that obviously is comfortably, would comfortably cover that €62 billion figure. Meanwhile, the new Greek government has pledged to stick to its bailout commitments, but it will seem to be wanting to renegotiate some elements of that. Inspectors are going to be arriving in Athens on Monday from the Troika, that is the lenders who've given Greece their bailout. But €1 billion that was held off after the recent elections, the first round, were inconclusive. That is now going to be paid to Greece. So they've got €1 billion on the way, at least, even if, well, we'll see what happens after that. But they've got €1 billion in the bank.
€1 billion to play with, and they hope that they'll secure another €8 billion at the next European summit. Next, go west, young man. That's what they used to say. And some savvy French entrepreneurs are doing just that. They're in California right now on a tech tour, trying to get their share of the dot-com gold rush with the help of French government.
Frenchman Maxime Berthelot has 5 minutes to sell his big idea. And he has to do so in English. He's one of 30 young French entrepreneurs on a crash course in San Francisco, learning the art of pitch.
3D printing is the third industrial revolution.
They've been sponsored by Ubi France, a part of the French trade office. The goal, to push France's tech talent into the spotlight.
It's difficult as a foreign business, French or otherwise, when you come to Silicon Valley. Nobody knows you. You might not have the resources your American counterparts do. So a little boost is nice. We're that little boost.
That includes helping organizing meetings with clients, partners and investors. Maxime gets enough training to be able to make his presentation. His goal for his company, Neo, is to raise cash he would be far less likely to get back home.
You hear incredible stories, people being approached by a venture capitalist who invests $3 million in the company, and it takes off.
Some tour participants stay on in California, hoping to become Silicon Valley legends. Last year, 5 out of 13 startups that took part opened shop in the United States.
Now, one of the UK's favourite comedians has found himself caught in the centre of an most unamusing tax controversy, Will.
Yeah, Jimmy Carr is not smiling at the moment. He's one of, like you say, a very well-known UK comedian. Well, he managed to pay only around 1% of tax on his millions of pounds income by using offshore accounts in Jersey. The thing is, it is completely legal, but the Prime Minister got involved after this was revealed. He said it was morally wrong. There you can see David Cameron there. The only thing is, like I said, it is completely legal, and as a Conservative, David Cameron, of course, his party tends to be rather relaxed about people making large amounts of money, as long as it's done legally. There's no illegal tax evasion. So difficult questions have been asked about other members of his party, even about his late father's tax arrangements. So this has created a lot of problems for UK MPs, and Tory MPs in particular are now worried that this means it could be open season for journalists looking into their tax affairs.
Jimmy Carr not laughing at all on that one. Will, you have a business and a political reading to the football match this evening between Germany and Greece in Euro 2012.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you almost couldn't have made it up, could you? I mean, this is the grudge match of the tournament, I suppose. Germany, the paymasters of the Eurozone. Greece on the receiving end of all those billions of euros, but not too pleased about all the austerity measures. They come head-to-head tonight. One Greek newspaper suggested the referee should use a drachma coin for the toss-up at the beginning of the game. That didn't go down too well in Germany. A German newspaper, Bild, has said that against Yogi Löw, one of their big players, no rescue fund will be of any use there. So we could actually see, I'm not a big football fan myself, Cyril, I have to say, but one of my colleagues was telling me we could see Greece and Portugal going through to the semi-finals, along with Spain and Italy. Now, of course, Greece and Portugal, they've already had bailouts.
The most troubled economies in the
Spain
Eurozone.
and Italy could possibly be on the way to bailouts themselves, so it could be a bailout showdown.
Well, Germany's favourite for this match, but I think it might give the Greeks just the extra energy they need to win this one. All right, thanks for joining me right here on France 24. We're back in just a few minutes with more world news. Stay tuned.